Hello and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. With 4 race starts, we're going to start with our Category 4 riders, then 3, 2 and 1. Our riders lined up in yellow, that is our Category 1 riders. In green, our Category 2. In blue, Category 3 and Category 4.
Look at the stretch and the damage that 8.4 watts per kilo from Cam Winfield has done to the group. Nicholas Spratt is the rider covering the move and ensuring it continues. Got 3 riders leading in a breakaway of around 15 seconds. 13 riders, it looks like, in the chase group. No one is hiding in the group today and coming out to attack the last 10 kilometres. There is no chance of using those tactics because of these 3 men. Popovic, Graves and Vujasin. Category 4, the leaders on the road. Coming now together with Category 3 as the Category 3 bunch make the catch. It's a huge group of riders now at the front of the race field.
This next one is a rider who will not want this to go too slow. He's going to want to pull the pace back up again. He likes the racing really hard. They are the 3 riders leading Category 2. And I'll tell you something, this is another brutal race. They're literally just in front of those Category 1 riders.
Staples pushes really hard, 10 watts per kilo. He wants the win, so does Ron Kelly. They're going to sweep round the corner and they're going to see the banner. Staples, Ron Kelly, Aaron Gates. Who is going to take this? I think it's going to be Staples. Staples is your winner.
Hello and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. Qualifier race number 3 of 4 qualifiers this month in July. We are almost fresh from the women's race. I'm not going to say almost, because it's an absolute blast of a race with some intriguing tactics, some great race finishes. And it's been a pleasure putting words to the action to that and to come back to do the same again for you now. My name's Matt Payne. I'm joined in the studio by
Emma Martin,
who is so busy making notes. I think she was absorbed in our race fields that we have today in our course here. We're going to be bringing you all of the race action today. We're live on Twitch TV, on YouTube, and we're going to be bringing you all of that action as it unfolds in a fantastic world. As you can see from the background, we are not in Arabia. We're not in Australia. We are in Colombia. We are on one of my favorite courses, climbing one great big mountain.
Yeah, we are indeed in Colombia. 45 kilometers today, 914 meters of climbing. Well, this Colombian course really keeps on giving because we've got a long run in of 21.9 kilometers until we hit that first Category 2 climb. But we do have those bridges along the way and the sprint segments. Now, 2 Category 2 climbs today in this course, and they are both very different. So the first Category 2 climb, 5.5 kilometers with an average gradient of 6.1%. Now, for me, that's where the action is going to happen today, because that second Category 2 climb, it's 13.5 kilometers, but just an average gradient of 3.6%. And I think whoever gets to the top of that first Category 2 climb, well, we could pretty much see a full-on sprint at the finish at the top of the second Category 2 climb today.
So decisive splits potentially on the medaling climb. We have the FRB section between that, the flat rolling and bumpy section between there and the Bogota climb. And the Bogota climb taking us up to the high point on the course, the longer of the 2 climbs, but both equally tough and suiting different types of riders. Now, 4 categories on our race starts, 1, 2, 3, and 4 in yellow, green, red, and blue, respectively. The Category 4 riders, well, they are our first riders to start. They will get a 5-minute head start on 3, 10 minutes then to 2, and then 5 minutes to 1. Let's have a look at this race field, Emma, in Category 4. And big packed race field. Could be really interesting because I think there's some really aggressive riders and some real climbing style riders who are going to
There
love
are,
this.
and this is where my head was at the beginning of this race, because I really was taking a look at these start sheets today because they are fantastic. So 31 riders on the start sheets in category 4 today. Koking, Kamish, Francis, Hoyos, Londono, Mamba, Molina, Decker, Nowak, Ramos, our fast starter, is in here today, as well as Kaluma and Butt and Martinoli. Every field is stacked today for qualifier race number 3 in July.
So you can see our riders lined up and ready to go. We're getting ready to start in category number 4. They're going to be the first of our riders away. Here we go. Time to show us what they're made of. Category 4 away. Qualifier race number 3 in July, away from the start. And now riders will be quickly on to the tarmac that leads them down this valley, away from the caves that we'll return to later, and out into our circuits, out into the valleys. And this is a really critical part of the race. Pancake flat, bridges really are the only climbs here. Now, if like me, you spent a lot of time in the Vale of York in the UK, you'll know it's pancake flat, and actually we have the Col du Railway Bridge and the Col du Canal Bridge, where you ascend maybe fractions of a metre, some of them maybe as much as 99 centimetres if you're really lucky. It's a bit like that here, but you can make them count if you're smart, and you can make your competition suffer from the start and over those bridges. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this category 4 race field, our base level race field, approach that.
Well, they've gone out hard today on this course. You know, within 1 minute, we've seen 3, 4, 5 watts per kilo, and Molina and Villada are keeping this pace hot at the front. And you can see on the top right-hand corner of your screen, the race field already split up. We've got a larger group towards the front of the road, and then 1 or 2 riders, those red blobs, just disappearing off the back. And in fact, you can see it on that shot now, 1 or 2 riders just distance off the back of the group. That large bunch of red jerseys at the front, and the solo riders off the back. So Villada continuing to push on the front of this group. This section is exceptionally flat at the moment. Let's give you a quick run through the screen. So on the top right hand corner of your screen, you can see the satellite navigation image. You can see the little green triangle. That is the leading bunch that we are in with at the moment on that very, very flat section. Those small bumps you can see on that course ahead of them are indeed the bridges Matt was talking about, as our riders sweep around that right-hand corner on the road at the moment. On the top left-hand side of your screen now, that is the individual rider data. So the rider we are in with at the moment, highlighted in purple on the right-hand bottom column of your screen, Congé at the moment, we are in with currently 278 watts. That's the power the rider is putting out, 85 revs per minute, the cadence, and a heart rate of 162.
That's almost 100 beats higher than mine is right now.
Well,
stood here watching these riders, and do you know what? I know by the end of this that my heart rate will be skywards, but these guys have to be able to get there immediately. Martinoli here, clearly ready to go. He's gone off the front end.
Yeah, he's gone off the front on this flat section. Now, this is, you know, we earlier on, well, a little bit earlier on, we were looking at the course map, and I made some sweeping assumptions about where I expected the racing to go. And I'm saying sweeping assumptions because, you know, you can look at a course profile and think that's where the action is going to happen. Now, Martinoli may well have heard me say that and thought, you got that wrong. I'm going early. I'm going within the first 2 kilometers on the flat section. And he has indeed. He's put 3 seconds into the chasing group. Brito is the rider. Marcos Brito and Mendoza are the riders doing the chasing at the front of the pack behind. But this would not have been expected from the riders, Matt.
Not unless his name was Ramos, to be honest, because we know that he is going to go for an absolute flyer most times. Nort with us, and Nort riding. He's already got his qualifying riding, I think. I don't think Renato Ramos is in here. If he is, he's taking the world's slowest start for him. I don't think I've ever known him to start this slow. If he has actually joined us, he was down on our start sheets. But really interesting start. Single rider going clear at the moment, putting the pressure on. May well be wanting to get a little bit of room before they hit the climb. Will he be able to get enough? We're going to wait to see. Our Category 4 riders are approaching 2.5 kilometers of racing covered. The Category 3 riders, they're the next riders to start. They're down there in the blue, in the pens, in the valley. They're the next riders to head out onto race start, and another packed field with some really seriously quick riders in here. I'm going to let you run through them, Emma, because to be honest, if I do, I'm just going to read every name because it's just absolutely
Yeah,
packed.
36 riders in Category 3, a really big race field today. Staples, Acker, Gakes, Dadson, Aaron, Pledger, Monella, Abello, just a small handful of them. You know, Cain and Orengo, who we've seen in the top 5 in this category this month, gone up to Category 2. So some progression from our Category 3 riders.
Yeah, I could add loads of names to that. Prusa, Rodriguez, Maga, Kegula, Andres. Let's see. Here we go.
So we're in with Bernard Maggott on the start line of Category 3. Away our Category 3 riders go. And Maggott indeed putting in a big kick at the start. 6.4 watts per kilo off the start line. Absolutely adamant he wants to be clear of that start pennant towards the front of the group. Now, this is a big pack and they are well stretched out across the road. You can see that on the top right-hand corner of your screen. We've got 1 or 2 riders just taking a slightly slower start than the others. Now needing to push on just to get onto the back of the group as Dan is the rider leading this out from the front. Dan is there, Miller, de Mongeon.
Drummond.
That would be right.
Staples, Winfield, about most of the pack, to be honest.
To be honest, they are. But they are indeed pushing on at the front. As
they don't want to let this go, do they?
They don't at all. But, you know, this is, well, it's interesting, isn't it? Pace-wise, it's a little bit steadier from the pack, but there's still a strong pace on the front here at around 4 watts per kilo.
So, Emma, let's just do a quick rewind here. Back to a couple of weeks ago. Oh, last time we were on here, and the last few times we've been on here, we have seen what has been a race of 2 halves. It's been quite quick, it's been maybe a little aggressive at the start, and then it has been full on the climb. But that means that people's efforts are at the last half of the race, and we've seen 1 or 2 people try and rip it up and everybody answering at the start. Now, I don't think it's going to be long. Today may be the day where we actually see people go, do you know what, we can make this hard from the word go. Because if we go from the word go, those climbers who can specialize in doing a climb effort, a shorter climb effort, but not sustain a longer race, are not going to be able to do that. And we will see the action from start to finish. We started to see little glimpses of it in the previous races, but David Darn here, great example, 6 watts per kilo, kicking on hard here. We are in kilometre 2, so we're 1.2k under the wheels between kilometres 1 and 2, so kilometre 2 is into. That is early. And if he can continue this and he keeps on working through, the climbers are going to find that hard. They're not going to find that easy.
Well, we say that, but the climbing today is not steep. And I know I've said an average gradient of 6.1%, but on some of the other courses, so Australia, for example, we've just seen the women race in Australia, you know, 10, 12, 14, 16, even 17% those climbs go to. Exceptionally steep sections of climbing. These 2 climbs don't do that today. They are long and gradual climbs, which tends for me to mean that packs stay together more often, particularly in the categories, because we see very, very well matched riders in each of the 4 categories and the ability to stay as a pack on this course.
And that is a product of having such close racing and such well-matched riders. That's why you have to give us the data by riding on the platform for us to know which group you're going to be in. Everybody's starting off in Category 1, which is the hardest category, then allocated to an appropriate one for their ability. We're seeing a push here. Moreno going off the front here and starting to stretch it out. And we're going to see a little reaction coming. Hoyos it is, who's going to try and go across gap to Dan there with Moreno. So it's Hoyos, and he's now starting to string this out. So what was a big blob is going to become a long line once again. Those people with the strength and the power will come across. Those people who are struggling, those people who don't want to expend the effort on the flat, who want to save it for when it's their advantage, they're the climbers. They are going to be looking to get across with as little energy expended here as possible. But there will become a critical point, and for me, it's a bit like this and this group coming off. At the moment, we've got the mass. The impetus really is with the riders at the back. They've got the advantages of big numbers, smaller group at the front. But as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, eventually you reach that tipping point. It's like moving the weights from one side of an old-fashioned set of scales to the other. It's going to move across, and then the scales tip. and the momentum tips and the advantage tips from one side to the other. So as you move across, and that's what we see, we see the riders. Whether it'll reach that critical mass at the front, we await to see. Now, one of the ways we're going to know who's in which group is with our segments. So these are discreetly timed on the way through. We have our 5 sprint segments on the way through into the climbs, then our 2 climbing segments to finish. At the moment, this is sprint segment number 1. Now, because we have no prizes for being the fastest through here, generally the riders will breeze through these at whatever their relative race pace is. That means that we use them as a little sample.
We
don't have to do a biopsy, none of this invasive stuff, none of this stuff that makes you cry. This is all about getting a snapshot on the riders. We take that image, the times, and that gives us an idea of who's going quick and who's going slowly in each of the categories. We'd expect category 4 to be slowest, with category 1 to be fastest. That reflects the theoretical abilities of the riders, but as you can see, category 4, pressure is on, going over the bridge off the other side, strung out like crazy. We've seen category 3, that group come together, and again it's now stringing out, they're breaking out again. So similar racing, different qualities of rider and different abilities, and that is reflected in our prize money. So as the riders go through, we see different prize money for the different levels of rider. The riders in category 4, their top prize today, 2,160 AED, with 5th place, 432 AED. If you take the team win at the end of the month, then there is an additional prize. But each of our races on every Sunday Race Club, if you're an individual rider, you can take away 2,160, whether that's a qualifier or the finals. But in the finals, there is the added incentive of those team prizes, and that is 10,800 AED. Ramps up though, doesn't it, Emma?
It does indeed. In the category 3 individual classification in the qualifier and the final, 3,600 AED for first, down to 720 for 5th. The team classification increased to 18,000, and that team classification at the end of the month really does add an added dynamic to the racing. It makes it even more exciting because they are fighting out for that prize pot as well. Now, the prize pots are identical in the men's and the women's race, but they do increase category on category.
They do indeed. 6,000 AED for category 2 for the win as an individual, down to 1,200 AED for 5th place. Team's prize now to 30,000 AED at the end of the month. Always pays to have a team pretty much primed and ready to go into that final. And of course, top of the tree is category 1. The individual prize money is 10,000 AED. Now, if you don't work in dirham and you work in sterling, that is about 2,300 sterling. If you work in US dollars, that is nearer to $2,800. All these correct at the time of me Googling them earlier this morning. So it gives you a good indication. There is nearly 3,000 US dollars available to win today for our race winner in the qualifier, and next Sunday in the next qualifier, and in the finals. And then there is 50,000, I'm going to say that again, 50,000 AED available for the team win in category 1. That is proper sports money. That is the sort of money that means that our riders can really focus on this, that they can put in the time to bring esports to the level it should be.
Well, it creates professional bike races on esports, and that is exactly the aim of the Sunday Race Club. Now, back in with category 3, we are on the second of these bridges, and it's Gakes, Dadson, Noguera, Darn, Miller, all pushing on. Roncalli is here as well as they continue to push it, just coming down that downslope, and you can see the stretch on the group, and you can see 1 or 2 riders distance off the back of it. This is not where you are going to win the race, but it could well be where you lose touch with the group and cannot take part in that final effort. But this group concertinaing back together again. Now they are up and over that bridge. 1 or 2 riders distance that group, slowly coming down.
So let's see how they get on. This is really interesting here. This group, it's got a lot of familiar names, people like Drummond and so on. but we've got some newer names in that. I think that's mixing it up, and that's definitely the case here in Category 4. As you can see, Category 4, further down the road, 8.5 kilometres nearly covered to the just shy of 6K to Category 3. 0K for the riders in front, and they are categories 2 and 1. Let's dive in with category 2. Now the next set of riders to go clear. Just see Suarez there sat on the line, a rider who's progressed up through our race categories. Category 2, UAE Falcons are here as ever with our Mesri Altanaji in hand. However, a huge pack.
There is 40 riders on the start sheets today in Category 2. Orengo, Kayan, and Swart coming up from Category 3. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go. But Winfield, Gonsolin, Kranich, Angarita, Simeons, Betty, Spratt, Noren, Bjarhead, Quadrelli, Ilpino. It just keeps giving. This is a start list for a cracking race.
So here we go, time to see who's going to be cracking the whip in Category 2. Who is going to be able to rip this apart? Who is going to be driving it? And who is going to be the person on the receiving end who's going to be on the end of that whip, getting flicked from side to side of the road, up and down these climbs? Who is going to be having to raise and lower their pace to match that of somebody else? Well, it's time to find out now. Into the first few hundred meters. We hit 250 meters out from the start, and it is the prodigy that is Cam Winfield off from the start, putting that sprint power to some good use. Kicking off on the start here. This is not an attack, is it, Emma? This is about getting out and ensuring he's with that lead group.
This is about getting out and ensuring you're with the lead group, but it's also about starting to whittle that lead group down by putting in a good pace on the front at the start. Winfield and Simeons Primero all going with this pace and moving well.
Now, very aware that we don't go out necessarily to everybody whose first language is English. Although this is the English commentary, we do have Arabic, of course, which you can tune into. So we will do some explaining every now and then of some of the more esoteric and colloquial words.
I think you just used two.
Here, that are in there. Basically, the words that maybe are not the easiest to find a meaning for on Google Translate. Whittling is to create something by taking little chunks off from a large piece of wood, and you would use a knife to take small pieces off. Little by little you create the finished product. Now, whittling with a piece of wood is essentially what these guys are doing with the bunch, with the group. They are taking what is the knife, that is their legs, and they are putting in the attacks, they're pushing it in there, and they are making the play. They're taking and setting the pace, and they should, if it works, knock rider after rider, just like the flakes of wood, off a piece of stick, and at the end, they'll have a beautiful carving of their liking, i.e. the race will go where they want it to go, and it'll look in the shape they want it to be. That is not necessarily going to be the case.
The gradual series of steps being taken by these riders to whittle this field down is absolutely momentum, because Winfield has kicked.
Do you know what? This is not whittling. This is taking an axe to the bunch
well,
at
I
the
tell
moment.
you, they are, because they are absolutely going for it. Winfield, Uyis, and Orengo. Look at that, 12.4 watts per kilo. He is sprinting across to those two because he knows the quality of those two riders.
Come
and I'll
on,
tell
guys.
you what, those two riders have the absolute ability. Cam Winfield, the young rider here, taking that young rider's jersey in the MyWhoosh Championships earlier on this year, has just got better and better since he's then started to ride the Sunday Race Club.
And you can see
Nick
next
Spratt.
rider's coming. Spratt's coming across at 10 watts per kilo.
Bjarhead.
Bjarhead 10 watts per kilo. Olivier Simmons, I've just seen 8 out of him. Now, you can see the damage it's doing, and this is what we find. You've got this group on the front, and everybody's going, hang on a minute, this is getting serious. We can't be left behind. So one by one, they're having to put in a massive effort to get across. What they don't want to do is just drag anybody else across and let them have an easy ride. So by kicking hard to go across, they could form themselves a useful break, and in fact not leave behind little bit by little bit. They could leave half the group behind in one fell swoop.
Well, I think this is going to be more than half the group left behind, because I think we're going to see 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 9 riders trying to get into this group. They still haven't all made it. There's still a 2-second gap back there, but then there's a big chasing group behind them. The top right-hand corner of your screen at the moment gives you a really good indication of what's going on. You can see that smaller group at the front, the big chase group at the back, and that big chase group at the back stretching a little bit, and they are about to come into our first segment today at 2.7 kilometres. That green banner as they move onto the boardwalk, indicating that 300-metre segment. And we're going to see the times and the pace. But Spratt here ensuring he's keeping the pace high on the front of 6 watts per kilo, because they don't want that group to join, and they're getting precariously close.
Yep, that is really interesting to see as we take that look at the leading group here. Now, behind it is strung out. It is a one long line. They're just starting to come back together again. Is there any major damage done? There's lots of damage done. It's not just to the riders, it's going to be to the riders' legs, because they are going to be feeling this. This is the leading pack of what is left of it, and you can see top right hand screen, it's dot to dot, starting to become a big group again. Not everybody's made it. This is tough stuff. Category 2, with all that action, we're going to go flying into Category 1. Right, teams, first of all, it's Angelato, UAE Clan Team, and the Belgian Waffle Squad. Great riding by these teams, time and time again. Going to be really fast action from them. We're down on race start. Here we go.
Well, we are away with the Category 1 riders, and they are up and out of the pen. It's a phenomenal field today. 62 riders in this field today, and it is stacked. This has got to be the all-star lineup. Vujasin, Koinstenen, Mayer is here, Vanden Eckhout, Safrazad, Hoyas, Graves, Cutler, Kaminsky, Paradians, Fawcett, Thiem, Osborne, Zanaska, Van Diemen, Mayer, Vink, Popovic, SS, X100, Knudsen, Nair, Van Elst, Bjorkland. I could keep going and going and going. This is going to be, I'm going to predict here, a cracking race.
Oh, Emma's off the fence before we've hit half a kilometre of racing. Careful, that makes a change. We normally have to force a prediction out of Emma. Here we go. So, race is underway already. You're seeing the gaps already, seeing the brakes here in Category 1. As Emma has just mentioned, we have got a star-studded list. I'm just seeing Jason Osborne in there, just moving his way up through. Definitely one to watch. Michael Knudsen and Michael Kaminsky on this climb. This is their territory. However, because it is a gradual climb, you can't discount riders like Mr. X100. I mean, normally on a climb, when it gets really tough, you know that he is going to struggle when it goes to the steepest big power kicks. He's going to sit at a tempo that's going to put everybody else under pressure. But this is what this climb is about. We've just seen the Category 3 go the other way in the red. These guys are just heading out, and they know they've got the full course distance. 1.1k covered, 45k in total. We are seeing splits now. We always say, Category 1, remember, if you are watching live, if you're watching back and you were racing and you are not in this leading group, don't panic, don't worry. Category 1 is the toughest race category. That is where everybody goes in. So instead of having some ex-professional rider, you know, a recently retired rider, hopefully Mark Cavendish, when he's back from his collarbone, decides he's going to come and join us on MyWhoosh. He comes on to MyWhoosh, and we put Mark Cavendish in Category 4. Oddly enough, I think he might win the sprint. No. Everybody goes into Category 1 to start off with, and then when we know how good you are, if you are not of Category 1, then you would be moved to Category 2, 3 or 4. Cavendish's case probably would be staying in Category 1. But if I came along and joined the Sunday Race Club to race rather than talk about it, I couldn't stay with the Category 1 riders. My ability level would be found by the repeated rides on MyWhoosh, including on the Tune-Up Tuesdays, and then I'll be put into Category 5 if we had one.
Well, I don't know about Category 5, but Pim van Diemen is putting 6.9 watts per kilo out at the moment and stretching this group because, well, this is pretty much where we've seen the effort come from all of our groups today, and no change here in Category 1. Keeping this pace high out of the start pen, this pace high as we continue to roll. So SS taking up the mantle, but just dropping off the pace a little bit here. But it is a star-studded lineup today in this race, you know, and well, I can't wait.
You're going to have to.
I'm just trying to chill a little bit before all the action starts.
What do you mean? It's already started. I don't know where you were for the start of this race. It was so manic that we've gone flying in from Category 4 through 3, through 2, through 1. I've spilled my coffee all the way around the studio. I don't know where half the pens and the highlighters are on the studio desk. They've gone flying. The course profile has disappeared somewhere because it's been manic so far. This is what we love about Sunday Race. It's so unpredictable as well. It's lots of ways. We know it's accurate. We know the riders are going to get that real feel racing and riding. You got the amazing graphics around the outside. These are all things that we know are going to be there. We're going to see some of our big favourites, but we always get new riders in. We get people who come back. You see the return of riders, and we see the changes in form as well as riders have different race programs. Great to see Carsten Mayer in here. I mean, Carsten is an absolutely class act on a bike. We know that. We know that he is world class. He's right up here and he's pushing on. He's got Ola Warren. How much do you know about Ola Warren, Emma?
Absolutely nothing, if I'm really honest.
So far.
So far.
That won't last. I do warn you, Ola, you're about to get social media stalked, data stalked, your email's not safe, I tell you. Emma will be finding out all the details about you, and there's a good reason, because the Spielen cycling team rider, that is Ola Warren, is about to get the treatment, because we do our research on all our riders as much as we can do, because we always have new riders. So Phil Grace, who is a Yorkshire resident, being chased by Francis Ilpino, one of our regular riders up there, and look at this, the time splits as they go through. Really, really interesting here in the Lake Sprint. Category 2 are absolutely flying at the moment. Mayer, 9th place. 9th place. Really interesting. Let's see who is going to take this out, who will be in at the finish, and where they're going to be, because this is going to be a really interesting run in. Now, this is the group coming back through the trees, back through the palm trees once again. They circle around at the base of the mountains, basically, for the first half of this. Throwing mine back to the course profile, 21.9k in. That's how far the riders have to go before they hit the big climbs. First climb, the medaling climb, that is the first climb, 5.5k. Then we have the FRB section, the flat rolling bumpy section that separates it part way up the mountain before the much longer second part of the climb. Second part of the climb, 13.5k, but the average gradient almost half that of the first section. So two very different types of climbs, all part of the Paso Alto climb, all part of Sunday Race Club here today. And as you can see, all 4 race fields up and racing. Category 4 in the tunnels at 15.5 kilometers covered. Category 3 about to approach the entranceway underneath the MyWhoosh banner into the tunnels. They are at 13.5 kilometers. You can see that at nearly 8 kilometers, Category 2 in the green, they're chasing hard. They're still out going across the bridges. Category 1, they're on the flatlands in between the bridges. They are about to cover 4.5 kilometers.
Yeah, so I think you'll find it is actually Joel Warren from Sweden. And he is a young rider, not old at all. Rode the Paris-Roubaix Juniors in 2021 and was 25th in the elite time trial in Sweden this year. So I think he has just progressed into the seniors.
Welcome on board. Can you say hello in Swedish?
Unfortunately not, but if any of our Swedish riders would like to teach me between now and next week how to say hello, great to see you joining us on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club in Swedish, I will happily take the lesson this week.
And get in touch with Emma. It's really easy. To get in touch with Emma, it's at Biking Emma on Instagram. You can get hold of me at Matt Fix of Pain across most of social media. And of course, on things like Strava and all sorts of weird and wonderful platforms, as people see just how slow or fast I am, or how much riding I am or I'm not doing. Not everything is recorded, I do warn you, because any of our test rides tend to stay off Strava, oddly enough, so you can't see them.
I'll tell you.
However,
sorry, I'm going back to Joel Warren because whilst he may just have joined the senior ranks as a final year junior, he was 3rd in the Swedish road race and he was 4th in the individual time trial, and came 4th on stage 1 of the junior Valletta.
Wow.
Which was a time trial. So he is a good time trialist.
Now, that is really interesting, because his effort, if he puts that in on the climb, time trialing up that climb could be really interesting. Okay, back with the racing. Let's have a little bit of a look at the riders. If you want to see where the riders are on the course and what their finishing positions are, what they get up to on Sunday Race Club. Don't forget, all of the results are on www.mywhoosh.com. If you want to get those results, are on there. If you want to join the Sunday Race Club, don't forget, of course, talking to social media just not that long ago, MyWhoosh on Instagram, MyWhoosh on Facebook, my_whoosh on Twitter. Jump on board, have a look. Some great stuff. Remember, MyWhoosh, of course, sponsors of the UAE ADQ women's team, the UAE Emirates team, and MyWhoosh all over those jerseys for a reason. There are training plans, there are programs. So if you want to be able to move as fast as these guys are coming off this bridge at 65 kilometers an hour in with Michael Knudsen, don't forget you can get a training plan to improve your performance. Emma, tell us about the Tour de France training plans.
Yeah, so there are indeed Tour de France training plans and workouts on the MyWhoosh platform for you. 10 new workouts allowing you to train using some of the methods of these professional cyclists. So whether you want a climbing workout, a sprinter workout, an individual time trial workout, a ruler or a taper workout, there is something for you there. If you complete all the Tour de France 2023 workouts, you're in the chance to win a signed jersey.
Signed by who, me?
Well,
you?
No, by two of the riders.
So I can tell you who the two riders are. They're going to be Marta Bastianelli and a certain Tadej Pogačar.
Who's he?
He's the man who I think has been the best thing to hit cycling for a long time.
Wow.
Not just because he's on one of the best teams, if not the best team in the business, but also because of his spirit. And I'll tell you what, the team really have harnessed that. It's great to see people like Adam Yates working for him. If you did not see yesterday's stage, I've just got to put this out there. I know we're in the middle of my Sunday race club, but it is a Tour de France.
Are we talking Tour de France now?
We're talking quick Tour de France. Please, 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 please watch the end of Saturday's stage. It was immense. Watch it and watch for the signal between Adam Yates and his teammate Tadej Pogačar. Oh my goodness. Now, these riders can talk to each other in their teams. I'll tell you something that's really interesting here. On the Amazon Bridge Sprint, we talked about Category 1 going off quick and not coming back. We saw in Category 2 a massive push on and a breakaway and then a reformation of the group. That really affected it because at 16.237 seconds to go through that sprint, that is absolutely motoring. Look at the numbers, 6.1 watts per kilo, and that is where Il Pino came across from the group at the back to the front. Now, that is going to have decimated the times and really changed it, and this is what we talk about, that snapshot. So 16 seconds for Il Pino, the whole of that screen was green. Whereabouts are the Category 1 riders in
They are
relation?
1.5 seconds down. It's currently 18th place and lower.
So they are. Category 2 taking the top 18. We're in with Francis Il Pino on the right of your screen, the fastest man through there because he was chasing to get into the leading group along with a lot of other riders. They're on the right of your screen. They set the fastest time there, going quicker than Category 1. Category 1's race has ebbed and flowed, mostly ebbed, not so much flowed, because it is not quite as fast overall. But that is what we see when you see these moves, and it depends on where on that shot is taken as to whether it's on the fast section or the slower section. But Category 1 are the riders we expect to set time up on this course. I'm going to set Emma a challenge now. Emma, tell me, not necessarily now, but I'll give you a little bit of time on this one. Last time we were on this course, the Paso Alto course,
yes,
how long did it take the riders to get to the end of the race? So what was the winning time for our riders in this race?
Well,
I'll give you a lot of time.
No, I can tell you immediately. So our
tell you what, go on then.
So our Category 1 riders, when they raced this in May, 1 hour 17, and Vink took the win.
1 hour, so that's Michael Vick. So 1:17. So for normal human beings that are not like something off another planet, that's probably nearer 1:20 maybe for the fastest riders. I mean, Michael Vick is something else again, as you see watching him in that UAE team we were talking about earlier. Category 4. Do you know that?
Oh, not off the top of my head. I don't know that one. No.
Oh,
can't help you there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave that with you because
it was slower, I can tell you that.
Yeah. What's the spread of times? That for me is the really interesting thing here. So I'm going to leave that with Emma. She may well come back to us later on with that. She may not. We'll see. She's just about to throw something at me from across the other side of the studio. Whilst we drop in with Category 1 now, just seeing Johan Noren on the attack. Johan really has progressed in Category 1. When he first joined us, you saw him taking a bit of a packet to start off with. He has really found his home here. He is riding to his tune more often. He's a rider who is continuing to push. Look at that heart rate, 142, 143. He has got capacity. Sitting at a beautiful set of revs there, 77, 78, 79, pushing up onto this climb, onto the bridge here. And you can just see he's just forcing that up over the watts at 360. He's in the green on the top left-hand side, and that means he's getting draft on the way over, and he smoothly goes over the top. His heart rate, in fact, continuing to drop to 138 at the moment, showing as he went over that bridge, despite the revs going down, having to put in more watts, going over the top of the bridge, the revs coming back up again, his heart rate is dropped. It's now down at around 131, 132 beats per minute. Really, really dropping. Now, one man whose heart rate is absolutely rocketing, it is Daniel Cadiz. He's up at 163 at the moment. He is pushing on here, and he is wanting to go into these tunnels. He's wanting to make it hard for the riders. Now, this is a smart move by Cadiz, because we go in through the tunnels, we've got to rise. You can see the bump on the right-hand side on the profile. Now, it's a thin line directly above the green arrow. So we're going to go past the pens. We're going to go underneath the MyWhoosh banner, and we go into the tunnels. We go into the tunnels so the riders don't get their feet wet every time they go through the river at the bottom, in the bottom of the tunnels, through that lake in the bottom of the tunnels. They go onto a raised boardwalk. To get there, there's a little bit of a climb, a little bit of a kicker up, and Cadiz has timed his move to go clear as they come up onto the race. Now, Category 1, a little bit further back, they are at 10.4k, so they've just made their way through the jungle sprint. Their time was the second slowest time in the sprint that we saw before. That was the Amazon Bridge sprint. Now, jungle sprint, not sure they're going to be any better off and any further up the road, to be honest.
Well, you know, it is a really interesting one, because I can tell you, you know, the results. So the jungle sprint, Il Pino, 17 seconds coming through there. Category 2 setting the 4 fastest times. So Il Pino, Simeons, Primero and Oviedo. Then Noren slotting in from Category 1. In fact, take a look at that. That is indeed, excuse me, the same times between Category 2 and Category 1, and less than a second separating the top 12. So Category 2 moving at pretty much the same pace as Category 1.
And when you look at the heart rates, they're not all that dissimilar. To
No.
be honest, so that shows a similar level of effort.
Well, I don't know. Noren's was 112, so which tells me that it's a lot easier for some of our Category 1 riders than our Category 2 riders.
Yeah, so there's always an exception that proves the rule. I knew Emma would be able to find fault with my theory.
Well, you know, but I can indeed give you the information you were after, you know.
Oh, you've not found...
I can indeed. In fact, I can give you so much information you're going to hate that you asked. So...
Hang on a second, let me just get my coffee. Hang on, here we go. Look, this is proof. That's the coffee cup. I'm going to have a coffee whilst Emma brings us these facts.
So I can tell you that in May, when we were on this course, Vink did indeed take the win in the men's race in 1 hour and 17 minutes. Knudsen was second. In Category 2, it was 1 hour 29 minutes. So 12 minutes slower for Category 2. And there were 2 seconds separating the top 5. So it was a 5-up sprint in Category 2 on this course in May. In Category 3, 1 hour 36. And in Category 4, Acevedo sprinted with Quadrelli in a 1 hour 44 to take the win.
Sorry, I was just finishing my coffee there.
There you go. So when you ask me for information, I can provide.
There we go. So the key fact here for me is it shows, number one, time differences really do show the difference between Category 1, 2, 3 and 4. You have got 4 very distinct levels of ability, and those are the leading times, remember, the winning times for each of our categories, and we know it's close racing between those category riders. The other thing is the actual time difference. 1 hour 17 for Category 1.
1 hour 44 for the win in Category 4.
So that means there was over 30 minutes when the winner in category 1 took 1 hour 17. So that is going to be 117 minutes. No, 77 minutes. There's a reason you do the maths. 77 minutes. So 77 minutes for the win. Yeah?
Yeah. I've no idea where you're going with this. Go on,
Good.
carry on.
77 minutes for the win.
Yes.
30 minutes or so behind came category 4.
Yes.
Massive difference. Because if you think of it just in terms of numbers of minutes rather than hour and minutes, it shows you that difference. 70
versus
77
100
versus well over 100.
So, yeah, there you go.
Big numbers.
Well, shall I tell you what also has a big number difference?
Go on.
Where your team is in the Fantasy Tour de France League versus
Oh,
mine.
no. Hang on. Let's just rewind a little bit. So, for those people, I know we sound like we're not watching. We are watching the race, I promise you. But we're also at the same time. Emma's just going to try and score points here, I think. Oh, look, the race is happening. We can't talk about it. We better do. Fantasy Tour de France League. So next year we are going to start. If we are still lucky enough to be putting words to the action, we are going to run a Fantasy Tour League. It's going to be the Full Speed Events Fantasy Tour League, and we want you on MyWhoosh to come and join us. So if you're watching, we want you to put a team in. We'll probably put it on Fellow Games and see if you can beat Emma and myself. Now, I am incredibly hard to beat at this sort of thing. Emma, less so. I'm just saying that's not true. Tell us, where are we at the moment with the Fantasy League, Emma?
Well, last week I was 200 points ahead of you with my 9-man team. This week, I'm 500 points ahead of you with my 9-man team.
Oops.
Yes.
And that's 500 in how many points?
So I have 4,831 points.
Yep.
You have 4,434.
Who's my highest point scorer?
Oh, hold on a minute. I have to kick. Well, I know Pogacar is mine.
Yeah,
because
I have
both.
well, oddly enough.
I have both Pogacar and Adam Yates on my squad. So you two do have Pogacar on your squad as well. So that was a good pick. And then your next best rider, Van Aert.
Yeah, well, you've got to have exciting riders. Anybody who's watched coverage will know that I love exciting
You
riders.
do,
though.
Unfortunately, one of my riders, I did indeed have James Shaw. He is a local rider I have known since he was 10. So I have watched Shaw's development through, and it obviously was his first Tour de France. Very thankfully, he scored 281 points for me with a 5th place and a 7th place. So phenomenal first Tour for Shaw. But sadly now out of the race. But everything okay, and he's heading home.
He's heading home. Well, not quite okay.
Well, yeah, but you know,
that's bike riding.
It is.
Don't get that when you ride on MyWhoosh, tell you. Well,
yeah.
You shouldn't do. If you do, you're doing something wrong. Right, let's get back to the action for some more yellow jersey action. This time the yellow jersey is not that is being chased by Tadej Pogacar, although he's a regular on the MyWhoosh platform along with the UAE team. It is the race here in Category 1. They're into the tunnels on that race boardwalk we were talking about earlier, over the lake in the cavern, on the way through this this torch-lit raised walkway, part of the amazing scenery you can ride on MyWhoosh. And at the moment it's our Category 1 leaders we are watching. This is the pack that is making its way through, currently still in contention for the win. They'll drop down off the side here, and then they have the run across. Now, as they drop out from here, they'll go through the Sandgill Sprint, and that will continue onwards. So you've got to make the way out through. And in fact, it's only when they reach 21.9k that they hit the climb, and already onto the climb is David Dahn. Dahn currently 8 seconds clear of Dorvin Ellos and Ole Konchika, who is the leading riders, along with Staples, Esteban and Co. in the chasing pack of Category 3 riders. Dahn, the leader in Category 3, kicking on, putting in a solo attack, clear of the rest of the bunch. No such attack in Category 1 on the left of your screen, but Dahn really starting to wind this up. In fact, I think he's just gone over the top of the tunnels.
Yeah, so large pack in Category 1, still all rolling together as we drop back in with the Category 1 race field. They are now in the caves on the lit boardwalk. I love this section of this Colombian world. It's absolutely beautiful as they come up and towards what is going to be segment number 4.
Segment number 4, much as you might like it, Emma, you're never going to get me caving in this. It's not my idea of fun. But maybe this is the way to get me down into a cave. It would be to have a nice lit boardwalk like this on the way through. If it had ice cream and coffee, everybody would do listen to any kind of time. Would not be just like really happy. We've got what great scenery to work your way through. The riders shouldn't be focusing on the scenery, they're just making their way down. There's one or two emotes going thrown about as they go through the end of that sprint, but that was a relatively pedestrian pace going through the sprint. I expect that to pick up though as we drop off the boardwalk at the end and head down and through. And I'm sure it won't be long before we get a look at the times for that segment. Oh, here we go. Our spin graphic tells us we are on our way. Oh, now, really interesting.
Well, they were pushing on, which is really interesting. You're right, Matt. So Gakes and Abello taking the sprint there. 21 seconds for Tom Gakes. Abello in 2, 3 seconds back. And look at that, Category 3, Category 2 and Category 1 all pretty much coming through. 25, 26, 27 seconds.
Very close. Very, 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 very close. Interesting. Very interesting. Down there, not a lot happening. However, you can see at 16.5k as we rolled off, Vidal Mer just pushing on, just trying to stretch this out. We're in with Vidal, and I think these riders now decided, you know what, we better warm up a little bit quicker here because we are on the run in to the climb. They've got another sprint at 18.1k covered. That's 18.1 heading out, and that will take them through to 18.4k, another 300 meter. That is the Mompox City sprint, but then they hit the first of our 2 climbs. So I think what we'll do, we'll get our riders in through the sprint segment here, Emma. Get the final sprint out of the way, then we'll think about the climbs and the climb profiles.
Yeah, so 25 riders in this Category 1 pack, 17 riders in the Category 2 pack when they went through that segment as well. So 17 riders on the right-hand side of your screen in Category 2. Big pack of riders, just over 20 kilometers. They have 30 minutes of racing under their wheels. Category 1 on the left-hand side of your screen, 25 riders still in that leading pack. We said it was a quality field today, and it is a large bunch. It's going to be so interesting to see both of these groups of riders heading into the base of that climb. Now, our first Category 2 climb today coming at 21.9 kilometers into this race. It is 5.5 kilometers in length with an average gradient of 6.1%. There is then a 3.6 kilometer transition to the second Category 2 climb, and that is 13.5 kilometers and finishes 500 meters before the checkered flag.
So just watching Category 2 riders on the way in through to the base of that climb. Going to be very interesting to see whether this group stays together. Great scenery here. Let's just watch these riders. Emma and I just going to take a moment while to do. So, just taking a little moment there, Emma and I just doing some conversing off mic, and Vidal Mer takes the opportunity to take an attack. It's always better to do it when you haven't got somebody talking about you. I've always found that, you know that? You've got to put an attack in, put in a bit of a move and a stretch when nobody else is watching, because people are watching live, of course. If you are watching live, thank you very much for joining us live. If you're watching it back later, thank you very much for joining us. Please do make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube and on to the Twitch TV. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, get notified every time we go live. Lots of great footage coming out, and of course it comes out in full resolution, even live on the Twitch TV channel. So we've just gone through that sprint section, and interesting, there's a bit of a push on there. Here come the times. So this is the final of our 5 snapshots that we get. Look at that again. Tom Gates on the push, on this run in.
He has indeed. So Tom Gates in Category 3 has indeed been pushing through these segments. So Gates pushing hard, 20 seconds going through that segment. Take a look at that. Category 2 rider Diduch going through 3 seconds slower. But at the same time, that Category 2 rider Andres Diduch going through as the Category 1 pack. And take a look who's in 12th. That is our Category 4 rider, Soberg. So pretty consistent paces going on here at the moment. In fact, I'm scrolling down the list on my screen at the moment because you can have access to the live results on the MyWhoosh website. And it is indeed pretty much the first 30-odd riders all through at roughly the same time following Gates.
So Gates on the push as they went through the flat, but it's David Darn who is riding quicker on the climb. He's about to make the catch to a big group of riders, and this is the lead of the race overall. Category 3, remember, set off 5 minutes after Category 4, and from those times that Emma told us about the race finishing times, you know that those times on the race, the results when they come through, there is generally more than a 10 minutes difference between each of our race lead at the finish of this race route normally. However, with 5 minutes, it means that our leaders tend to catch, and some of the chasers catch some of the leading groups in the riders before. Now, David Darn now in with this pack on the climb, 5% gradient on the climb, 25.5 kilometers of the 45 kilometers covered. I'll say that again. 25 of 45 kilometers covered, and we have, as Emma has indicated, got a real two-stage climb. May well be we're able to look at the course profile fairly shortly, and if we can do that, we'll give you another focus in. Here we go. Look at that, my goodness. If only I could do that with lottery tickets. It wouldn't stop me commentating on MyWhoosh, I'll tell you. Here we go. 2 parts of the climb. Emma, we have part 1, you were saying, steeper, shorter, 5.5k. You can see that that's the first red section. It's a very consistent gradient, isn't it?
It is indeed a very consistent gradient, but it does go up and it does make an impact, as you've just seen in that Category 3 race.
Then we have the FRB section. This is the internationally famous, named by Emma, flat, rolling and bumpy. Flat, rolling and bumpy?
Flat, rolling and bumpy.
Section. It is exactly that. It's flat, it's rolling, and it's bumpy. It is a section that breaks it up, and it breaks the rhythm of the riders up.
It does.
And it does tend to mean that groups come back together again if they're in touching distance. So you've got to have a substantial gap. If you are a climber on using the first part, the medaling climb to attack, you've got to get it back. You've got to get a big gap, or you could be closed down on that rolling section. If you're a ruler, a sort of a more punchy rider, though, sometimes that will suit you. But we then go on to the second part of the climb at the Paso Alto, which is the Bogota climb. Now, this really is long. This is this would be my absolutely most hated thing in the world ever, just about, other than decaf coffee. And that is 13.5 kilometers of climbing.
It's long, but it's not steep. You have not got steep sections on it, and in fact when you come up to the top of it, you've got a steeper section and then a flatter section. So there isn't a possibility in this climb for groups to stay together. You know, we've got large race fields today.
We have, and then we come into that very finishing section, the last kilometre or so, it looks flat on this course profile. It's not actually flat, but it is that release of gradient. So if you're in a group, then not only have you had to get over the medaling climb as a big climber, you've had to go through the flat, rolling, bumpy section and stay either in the group or clear if you're a puncher. It is a little bit bumpy on that longer climb, but not a lot. But then you've got that section you're going to have to sprint to finish. Let's see who's got all of those qualities, who can put the combination together in the right way. Coming into the base of the climb, so into the start of those red sections, come Category 1 leaders. They hit this climb in 300 meters.
They do indeed. 25 riders coming into the base of the climb together. They've got a little mix in there because you can see some green jerseys from Category 2 riders taking a toe into the climb. My prediction that those Category 2 riders will not be in that bunch for much longer, but they are coming in with a little bit of the draft. And I'm just looking at Lucas Zanaska's numbers at the moment, because Zanaska is the rider we are currently sat in with. So currently a pedal cadence of 81 revs per minute, a heart rate of 137, telling me that he is not really working that hard at the moment. So steady into the bottom of the climb. This is where the action is going to happen.
It is, and here we go. You can see the riders out of the saddle. They're starting to wind this up. It is starting to be a push. It really is starting to break, and we are seeing one or two riders just get distanced here. And the nerves will have been jangling coming in here. They know that they are on the way into the key part. And that's one of the things that the riders have to deal with. Your heart rate can elevate just because you're anticipating a tough section, not just because of the tough section. One man who we know is as cool as a cucumber. It is Mr. X100. He's the road captain of the UAE clan team. And we know that a steadier gradient, not necessarily less steep, but a more consistent gradient, will suit him down to the ground. He's a man who can climb. He knows the course here and all the courses inside out. Can he use that against the riders who are maybe just trying to kick on here? Really good to see. We've got SS back with us, because SS he's a workhorse in lots of ways, isn't he, of that UAE clan team. He's so strong.
He is indeed, and regularly seen towing teammates back onto the group or making the effort and making the catch to bring an attack back. But it's Nair, SS, Zanaska, Osborne and Cutler with Kaminsky who are at the front of this group. You know, they are so well matched, this group of riders, that the class and the depth of the class in this field today is going to really give us some great racing. But at the moment, they are all able to match each other. So SS, Zanaska, Mayer, Nair, Walter, Van Elst, Noren, Hoyas, Vujasin, X100, Kirchner, Van Diemen, all in the mix here, all continuing to push. They are up onto this boardwalk. It's currently at around 6%, and they are just about to pick up another rider in front of them and consume them into that group. Up and over the top they go. So SS leading the charge at the moment. Jason Osborne, Jacob Bjorkland, Juan Hoyas, Michael Vink, all in the mix.
This is like, it bubbled and bubbled. We hit the climb. This is where it's going to start to be put on to the boil, and it will come to that escaping high pressure finish as we come in to that final long section of the climb. Now, looking at David Dunn, he's coming to the top of the medaling climb. He's on the right hand side of your screen as the riders in category 1 in the lead of category 1 make the way on the lower slopes. He's gone over the top. He goes over the bridge, so he's cleared the climb. He'll set the fastest time so far on the medaling climb as the riders come through. Emma, do we have a time for that climb?
We do indeed. David Darn completing that climb in 15 minutes and 16 seconds.
15
minutes, 16 seconds.
Okay, all right. Lodge that in your brains, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be testing you. We'll ask questions later as the riders go up there. So with that time, he set the fastest time. But you know what? Category 2 has been absolutely electric today. It's really been a tough category. You've seen time and time again, they've been right up there en masse as well in the time splits, on those snapshots or through the sprints on the run into the climb. We're seeing the action here. Remember, El Pino here, the rider who's currently in what is 3rd place, trying to close back at Primero and cut up in front. He's the rider who has set some of those fastest times on the way through. He's out the saddle here, pushing hard, 316 watts. He does not want to let the riders in front go at this stage. Primero in front with Arengo. They are the riders who are currently leading this race, but we are going to get 3 riders, I think, very close together. Now, if you were in here, if you were Arengo, Primero or Pino, would you try and push away clear, or would you try and keep this as a group as you come into that flat rolling bumpy section?
Well, I think it depends on how strong you are and how you're feeling and how your legs are today. But I would definitely want to be working as a 3 to push away from the group behind, because this first climb is your biggest opportunity to put what I think is the biggest time gap in. And these 3 obviously really, really strong today. Obviously can work really hard. There's some class riders in that group behind, currently 10 seconds back.
I mean, you got Simmons in there, you got Bjarhed Ice in there, Van Haren in there. They're chasing hard. That's the right-hand side of your screen. Just looking at Ilpino, left-hand side of your screen, we are seeing fractures opening in the group behind our leaders. This leading the pack in with SS at the moment. It's still a big number of riders, but you can see behind 1 or 2 riders just not able to stay with the pace on the climb. When it goes skywards, when those handlebars point upwards, that is when the riders who generally have a better power to weight ratio will go clear of the front. And really interesting to see as it change gradient into this steeper section, you can see that Mr. X100 now having to work his way back into the group. He's one of those riders off the bat. He's going to make contact here, I think, because he's sitting at 6.3 watts per kilo. That's a big push. He's ahead of Mayer, he's ahead of Kirshner, and they are riders who should have the power to stay with the group, but clearly the transition into the base of this climb not giving them the chance to do so as Mr. X100 makes contact with this group in here. We talked about him earlier on. I think it's probably time we talked about him a little bit more. Michael Vink.
Yes.
Go on then.
I was about to say, what would you like to say other than, a really, really strong rider, so hasn't been with us recently this month, has been out and about on road duty for his team. Took the win in the June final on the Hebel Hace. Knudsen in 2, Noren in 3, Popovic and X100 4 and 5. Part and parcel of that UAE clan squad. Now his teammate Knudsen has taken the win in both qualifier round number 1 and qualifier round number 2. So are we going to see Vink come to the fore today? He obviously likes this course. He won here in May.
He did. And when you talk about Michael Knudsen, I mean, we do talk about, I mean, you've got riders who are very quick. Michael Vink has basically generated the phrase doing a Vink.
He has indeed.
What is doing a Vink?
Doing a Vink is riding off the front of the group and time trialling to the end of the course regardless of the terrain.
Okay, so breaking clear, and is that with one massive attack? Is it just drifting away? Is it going from the back of the group? What happens?
Well, yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? Because normally utilising a climb, whether that's the main climb or a overpass or a bridge or something of that nature, there's normally some gradient involved. But he does have an ability not necessarily to sprint off the group, but just to ride away from them and hold that pace. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he does on this climb today. But currently on this climb in category 2, we are in with Primero at the moment.
He's doing a Vink.
Well, there you go. He is riding away from Ilpino and Arengo, and he's doing it on a climb. So there we go. Primero in category 2, doing a Vink on Ilpino, who we saw closing down Primero and Arengo. We talked about would the 3 ride away. No, they haven't. We've had an attack off the front.
So they're not as a group. Primero running clear of Ilpino, who's clear of Arengo, who's clear of the chasing. I'm going to call it a chasing group because you've got this Oya Simmons in there as well. You've got a reasonable sized group of riders at 35 seconds. This is the leading 3 of what is a big pack of riders. You can see behind, I think that's going to be about 7 or 8 riders. I think Emma will be able to tell us better.
8.
So we go through, so 8 riders as they come up there. So that is the chasing group behind. So 3 escapees, solo leader, solo chaser, and then this big pack who are working hard. That's in category 2. In category 3, David Darn, also
a lone leader,
doing a
Vink.
Clear at the front and clear of all the rest of the riders over the top of the Bogota climb. And just to remind you, that is the second of our climbs. He's at 31k. We're going to just double check that as he makes his way up through. I'm sure I've just seen him go through the banner here. So through
the start
the top of the climb.
Bogota climb. He's gone through the start.
Through the start. I was going to say that was incredibly
I was going to say, if he'd
quick.
gone through the finish, he'd be at 44.5 kilometres, and he's
Hallelujah.
not. He's at
Great.
31 kilometres.
Thank you.
That was the start of the climb.
I'm glad you clarified that for everybody else, and me included.
Yeah,
So, David Dance, start and start. I'll tell you something, he did thought that was his best race ever if he'd have got through that quickly. So he's finished the flat rolling bumpy section. That's the yellow section between the two climbs, on to the second of our climbs. Category number 1, though.
Well,
this is
it's Knudsen. It's Michael Knudsen kicking out at the moment. He's just sweeping around the bend, and the gradient now currently at 8.9%. This is a steep section on this climb, and Knudsen making the most of it, now being marked by Jason Osborne. Osborne pushing on, Popovic in 3, Noren in 4, Vujasin and Kaminsky are there as well. So is Cutler, but the gap now back to Cutler, 4 seconds. So Cutler now needing to push if he wants to go with this, because Knudsen, Osborne, Popovic, Noren and Kaminsky would be a great group to go up the road, only to be joined really by Vink.
Well, yeah, you say that, but coming across, I think you're going to see Cutler pull this back.
Yeah.
It is a long line. This isn't a break yet. It is a stretch, and you can see that top right-hand side of your screen. It's starting to split off 1 or 2, and it's this yo-yoing pace that makes life difficult for the riders behind. Now, Jason Osborne, the rider that we're talking about there from Germany, he is one of our regular winners. He has been a professional rider for some time, actually a former Olympic medalist. Well, still an Olympic medalist. You get to keep him forever. And he is up there, a medalist in rowing, but that shows you that he's got a big lung capacity and the ability to make the pace and to hurt himself and push himself to the limit in the Olympics. And it's Osborne now with Noren and Popovic. SS making the junction, that blue cap of SS distinctive as he goes down the right-hand side of the road into the race lead. He's got a teammate in there, Knudsen. Let's just remind you of the team for the UAE clan team. That's Michael Vink, Pablo Popovic, SS, Mr. X100 and Michael Knudsen. They are the riders right up there. The Belgian Waffle squad have Jason Osborne in the mix here. He's right up in the battle. Vidal Meb, Van Diemen, Zanaska, the riders for the Gelato squad, not quite as far up this climb. May well be the Colombian heat has melted their approach to the climb and their willpower on this climb. One man whose willpower hasn't been melted, and that is Michael Vink. Just seeing Van Diemen there. He's just about tucked in here. Ross Fawcett in there. Really interesting to see Fawcett, another rider who's really improved.
Fawcett has improved indeed, but Fawcett is now on the other side of the gap. He is leading the chasing group. So Fawcett, Vanden Eckhart, Van Elst, Wan Hoyers are the riders not to have made the group.
So they have missed the split as we go past Karen Kayan on the climb. Another of our really good riders in Category 2, one of our great riders in Category 3, Dexter Bello, being passed by the leaders in Category 1 on the section here. And they are coming up to the top of the Medellin climb, and this will give us a clear indication of all 4 leading groups times in the categories from 4, 3, 2 and 1 as they come over the top of the climb. Who's going to set the fastest time of the day is shortly going to come from our Category 1 riders. Over they go, and this I think will depend on where they started relative to each other in terms of those time splits. They're now onto the bridge that takes them into the flat rolling bumpy section. It's a fractional downhill. This is the chasing group behind, and you can see the time gaps that have opened up here. They are still chasing. In fact, they are chasing Hoyos up there, Van den Eekhout. They are riders who are not yet through, just going underneath the banner now. Meanwhile, this is the chase behind. These riders came in at the same time. You got people like Zach Nair, Phil Graves, Vidal Mayer, Mr. X100. They come underneath that climb banner as well. This means the leaders coming through, and the chase is now on. This is that flat rolling bumpy section. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It's flat, it's rolling, and it's bumpy. It's where the splits could be closed down if the riders can push, but look at those times. So Emma, take us through the times.
Yeah, so Jason Osborne setting the fastest time up there in 12 minutes and 54 seconds.
Ouch.
Now, Vujacin, Knudsen, Popovic, SS, Vink, Van Diemen and Kaminsky all within a second of that time. Noren at 1 second, Zanaska at 1.9, Cutler at 2.2. Then Ross Fawcett, 12th fastest time, but he's 24 seconds back. So Fawcett losing 24 seconds to Osborne on that climb.
And the top 11 all climbing at over 6 watts per kilo as their average power to weight ratio on that section. So they are the leaders up on there. Category 1 are flying up there. So the Category 1 leading time set by Jason Osborne. Behind Category 2, 3 and 4 riders have come through. Do we know the times of those?
Yeah, so Category 2 came through 14 minutes 29, fastest time from Francis Elpino. David Darn setting Category 3 fastest time at 15:16. And the Category 4 fastest time set by Efren Mamba, 18 minutes 54.
And if you want to use those times, if you want to set yourself against them, so if you're thinking about joining us on the Sunday Race Club and you want to jump on, want to know how you would perform on here, maybe you just want to get an indication of just how quick that is, don't forget you can jump onto MyWhoosh, download the app on iOS, on Windows, on Android, jump on board, get yourself riding, head out to Colombia and you can ride that self-same climb. Watch it back on the video. Maybe start a screen next to you with the YouTube feed rolling when they hit the start of the climb. You get to the start of the climb, press play, and see which group you're relative to. And you can see all of the results on mywhoosh.com/results.
Yeah, and don't forget, on all of those results, if you want to go in and look at the times on the climbing sections of whether you're in Australia, whether you are in Colombia, or whether you are in Arabia, you can look at the race times from the Sunday Race Club. You can look at the segments and you can see how each of those 4 categories perform. So if you're interested in coming and joining us on the Sunday Race Club, go on to the mywhoosh.com website, take a look at the results, take a look at the YouTube feed, have a look at the racing. Come and join us on the Sunday Race Club. We would love to have you on the start line.
We would, and we would say one thing to do, get your qualifying in early. As it gets more popular, there are more and more people wanting to race, more and more people wanting to ride, so it is key. As soon as you see the event pop up, jump in, join the riders, get on board. There is a limited capacity, it's not infinite. You can't put the entire planet riding around. Much as we would love to talk about every single person on this planet racing, it's not going to happen. That's just not possible. So guys, get signed up nice and early.
Well, looking at the racing at the moment, we've got Category 1 on the right-hand side of your screen, Category 2 on the left-hand side of your screen. 1.4 kilometres separating those 2 leading groups. But they are indeed 2 leading groups as we're seeing a bit of an attack come off the front of the Category 1 race. It's Knudsen again. So Michael Knudsen kicking, and that's Nicholas Spratt from the Category 2 race just jumped on his wheel. He put in a dig, he put in an effort. He's trying to take a toe off of Knudsen with a bit of draft. Good on Nicholas Spratt. But as Knudsen kicks and responds, it's the chasing group that are indeed chasing hard. They are continuing to push and trying to close Knudsen down.
So on the left of your screen, Michael Knudsen's attack being neutralised. Right hand side of your screen, Mr. X100 here coming up full screen. These are the riders who were distanced on the climb. They are closing in on SS here. He's got that blue cap on. It looks to me like the action at the front is splitting the groups. It is causing issues, but this chasing group are working hard and they are trying to close down the gap, minimize the time gaps here, but that is going to be tough stuff.
Well, it's about 15 seconds at the moment to the back of the leading group in the Category 1 race, and SSX100, Van Elst and Graves are the riders trying to do the work. In fact, Venon Eckhart is in there as well. That's a strong, strong group. You know, Fawcett and Hoyas are about 3 or 4 seconds further back down the road. But we know how strong X100 and SS can be when they work together. They can continually time trial and they will through and off and work together to try and drag back. Now, Graves getting distances. SS and X100 continue to power on the pace. Van Elst now at 1 second behind. Can Van Elst go with these two? Graves at 3 seconds back, now at 5 seconds back. So these two absolute workhorses from the UAE clan team continuing to push up the mountain. They have now just transitioned onto the final climb of the day, the Bogota climb. They have 13.5 kilometers of climbing ahead of them, and the gap up the road, well, take a look at that. They can see the back of the group.
This has been a monumental chase down, and I'll tell you something, it's a good job that there are the two riders in there, Mr. X100 and SS. They are going to make it back. You can see that they're in communication. Now, one of the key things here is when you ride on MyWhoosh, you don't need to have a separate communication channel to your teammates. If you register as a team, you talk to your teammates. You can just do it through the app. You don't need to run a separate computer, separate device. It runs through the app. If you're not in a team, you can talk to everybody else, but you can't listen in on that team chat. So you can tell, if you're SS, you can say, right, I'm coming back for you, jump on my wheel. This X100 say, push now, time to go. They don't need to.
Yeah, those teams, they don't need coded communication, do they?
No, they don't need to talk about crocodiles and whatever else it was that was talked about on the team radio on the tour recently. This is all about having great communication. And that is why, if you're in a team, yes, there's no team prize, but it does pay to put those team
I'll tell you
down.
something, this group of Category 1 riders now at the front, you know, that is a big group. So we are going to look and see. I think there's around 14 riders from Category 1 in that lead group on this final climb together. But on the right-hand side of your screen, take a look at that. They're around 1.1 kilometers up the road, but that is the leading group in Category 2, and they are all together as well.
Now, this reforming of groups is what was we said would likely happen in that FRB section as you come from the first climb into the second climb. That transitional section has brought these groups together. This group contains Alpino, it contains Rengo in here, it contains Primero. These are the riders who we saw pushing before on the steeper climb. Can they do the same? They are now into the second of our climbs. They are on the way up. They've already reached the 33.5k marker. Remember, 31k this climb started, and Primero now starting to stretch his legs on the front. Just behind them, we're into the climb now. This is 32.5k covered. Michael Knudsen winding it up on the front of the group again. He's seen his teammates come back into the group. He's waited until they were back with him, and now he's kicked on again. And it looks to me like Jason Osborne might be trying to answer this. He's gone over the top. Osborne with the white helmet and white socks alongside Knudsen, and you can see Mr. X100 who's just chased back on again up after that steep climb with SS back into this group as we watch Jason Osborne. 161 beats per minute. He's got a little bit of capacity in that old heart rate.
I think he has. He has indeed. But Knudsen, Kaminsky, Van Elst, Zanaska, X100, Vink, Noren are all in this group. So is Popovic. You know, Cutler and Spratt from Category 2, the green jerseys who they caught, are still trying to hang on, but they are not going to be able to hang on for long. And you can see the riders up the road that they are going to now start sweeping up, as it is indeed Knudsen and Zanaska who are continuing to push on the front.
So you can just see that Spratt from Category 2 holding in there with the group and doing a great job joining those riders, Knudsen, Cutler and co up at the front of the group in Category 1. This is a big push. Nicholas Spratt, we saw him on the MyWhoosh Championship time and time again, showing us that he could dig really deep. He's holding this group and clearly is rolling on good form here. Now, can he use this group of riders to go up to the front of Category 2? That's going to be a big ask, because Category 2, it is being absolutely blown apart by the pressure put on by Albert Primero up there. He's got a speeder on his wheel. You can just see every single one of these riders really are battling here to stay on the wheel of the leaders here. Fantastic to see, really interesting as they push on here. Arengo, Montoya, Simmons, Ilpino in this group. They're all working hard.
They are indeed, and this group all back together again. They've picked up Florian Dromard, a category 3 rider, and they've got 1 minute 16 seconds until they bring up and get onto the back of the next category 3 rider ahead of them. So continuing to work, but it is indeed a Sprat in the group from category 2 in the mix with this category 1 group, trying to take the toe up the road to join that group, continuing to push here. Now this is still a large group of category 1 riders, and I am looking at this. Sprat's working hard. His heart rate's 173. Actually, that's not far off of Lionel Vujasin at 171, but Vujasin is in here with X100, Popovic, Cutler, Zanaska, Kaminsky. Ross Fawcett now 18 seconds back. Phenomenal riding from him recently over the last few weeks. I think he had an 8th place last week, but a very, very different type of course last week. For these riders, it is a big climb now. They are on, this is a second category 2 climb today, and the checkered flag, well, that's at 45 kilometers, so still over 10 kilometers of climbing for our category 1 riders.
Well, they've got a long way to go. Not quite as far to go is David Dunn. David Dunn up at the front of the race, leading our category 3 riders at the very front of the race now, filling the top places on our standings on the road here. David Dunn, your race leader, ahead of Oleg Konchetkov. Konchetkov at the moment nearly 2 minutes down. A little bit further back, you've got chasing group Dadson, Roncalli, Elos, Esteban de Manuan, looks like Sabalas in there. Oh my goodness, look at the size of that group. I was looking to see how many names flick through. I don't need to. Look at the volume of riders, and tucked in there are category 4 leaders. So interesting. The category 4 leaders have been caught by the chasers. They've not been dispatched off the back of this group. Look at the
size of that category 3 group. It is amazing to see. They are 37 kilometers now into this race. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I reckon there's 11 riders in that group. And we've got a category 4 rider in the mix as well.
Yeah, one in the middle and one at the back. Yeah, so Kaluma and Butt are in the mix here. In the red jerseys, they are trying to stay and use the pace of this pack. Now, the draft effect, because this is not the steepest climb, we're on a 3.6% gradient, and we're traveling at 25 kilometers an hour here pretty much consistently up this climb. This means that there is draft effect. You get that at this pace with 15 miles an hour, 25 km an hour. That is going to make a difference. Behind, traveling at 30 kph, is Primero now, who is at the front of this group. He's trying to go clear. Oya, Ilpino, all in the mix. Rego quickly responding to this move, so is Montoya, and you can see it's not an instant kick response from the majority, but Ospina, he's looking to see if he can jump onto this wheel. Changing gradient, this is part of the steeper part of this climb. We're not talking 17%, but we are still talking 8% here and into the red. So one of the steeper sections here. It doesn't last all that long, and that is why the average gradient of this climb, that is a total of 13.5k long, 503 meters of climbing, 3.6% average gradient.
Yeah, it is indeed. And Ospina joins Primero side by side. They've got a 4-second gap on the group behind Arengo, Ilpino, Ospina in that group. So it is absolutely close in all of our categories at the moment that we are continuing to see. But take a look on the top right hand corner of your screen. That is giving us a really good indication of what this pace and what this attack from these 2 riders has given this category 2 race. We've got 2 riders clear a chasing group and then a 3rd chasing group, whereas all of those riders were together not long ago.
So category 1 here on to the last 10k. They're just heading for the last 9k as we approach the 36k covered mark. Michael Vick has not done a think so far. We have had some great chase back, some great recoveries on the way through. We've seen some amazing chases. We've seen the gap pulled down. Tim Cutler back in that fold and working well. Van Elston here, Kaminski, Zanaska. We've got representatives of the Belgian Waffle Squad, the Italian Gelato team, and of course the UAE Clan team in here. They are all working the way up to the culmination of this race route, the climb on the Paso Alto, and that is the end of the Bogota climb, which comes at a distance of 44.5k, and that will leave us 500 meters into our race finish. Going to be a real chaotic finale. I'm going to predict that. There you go. That's my prediction. It's going to be chaotic, and that is because these riders are working their way up here. Interesting to see Mr. X100 on the front here, setting the tempo in that red bandana. He's there, ticking this along. He doesn't want the pace to drop, because if the pace drops, then that means somebody will kick clear and attack. He wants this to be tough and consistently tough.
Well, with 8.5 kilometres to go in this Category 1 race, we've still got 11 riders in the leading group, and it is a world-class leading group. Vink, Osborne, Noren, Kaminski, Knudsen, Popovic, Van Elst, SS, X100, Michael Vink. Just could not wish for a better leading group.
You couldn't, and they're about to get a respite. You just see them flick over the top of the step onto a slight easing here. It's dropped to 2.5% now, sub 2%, and you can see as it comes along here, we've leveled it out. They're going to take this long section here. It goes into minus numbers. It's only fractionally minus numbers, but it's enough to pick the pace up 40 kilometers an hour here, and still you see the push on the front. This is where Mr. X100 wants to keep the pace tough. He does not want anybody to go on the attack. He doesn't want anybody to be able to kick hard, so he's kept the pace high. He's kept the pressure on the pedals, that chain tight, as they came through that flatter section, and they go back on to the increasing gradient.
Yeah, well, with a number of the riders that the UAE Clan team have in this leading group, they can really play a team game and try and line up the win for one of their riders. Taking a look on the right-hand side of your screen, that is our Category 2 race. They are at 37.94 kilometres, only just over 500 metres ahead.
So the riders who are on their way on the left of your screen in Category 1, the fastest riders on the road, they are going to come rocketing up and work their way up and through this group. So let's see how they go on here. It's going to be very tough today. So Primero tucked in with this leading group of C2 riders, but the chasing group behind are working hard. Interesting to see. We've got a Category 3 rider trying to go with them. Looks very, very tough, but even tougher is the race in Category 1. So the race in Category 1, really tough. And you can see Mr. X100 in here. We're watching his heart rate at 155. Emma knows his heart rate's off by heart, I think. Here he's got a little bit of room left, but not maybe as much as Osborne.
No, you know, X100 at 155, that's a strong pace. That's a good time trialing pace for X100. Heart rate would go to about 164. We would see him, but not as high as some of the others. Michael Knudsen, we've seen his heart rate go to 201 at the finish line. At 175, it is working that way north, but it continues to push, and he has still got some room left to go. And well, there is still some distance left to go as well, because he is pushing on. So Knudsen, Cutler, Zanaska, SS, Vink, X100, Van Elst, all still in this group. 11 riders leading the Category 1 race at the moment, and it is battle on battle as they all stay in the group, continuing to wait. Now, what are they waiting for? They are waiting for an attack, but at the moment, X100 setting a good pace on the front at 6 watts per kilo. You know, it's going to be difficult to attack off of that and go clear because of the quality of this field.
It is, and you can see the tactics here by the UAE Clan team. They're stifling attacks by the fast kicking accelerating riders. They're setting their own pace. And this really is what we've seen in the Tour de France. I don't want to dwell on the Tour de France, but this is what we've seen. We've seen the teams setting the pace. They line this up. They go on the pace. They hold the pace when they want to go quick and stop attacks. You push the pace up. You make it really hard for anyone to go. So the differential between an attack and the pace you're riding is minimized. And that means that people just don't get the gap. They don't get the distance. They can't break clear. They will then ease off when they know they've got somebody going. Guess who's going? Michael Knudsen. So Michael Knudsen goes off the front now at 9.5 watts per kilo. Really pushing on here. He's going to keep kicking. He'll see whether he gets a decisive gap. Who's gone after him? It's Lionel Vujasin who's gone after him. So Vujasin goes after Knudsen, and he doesn't want to let him go. You can see that we've got Zanaska also doing the same. You've got Cutler doing the same. You've got Noren doing the same. They're all being marked out, but the man who's going to make the junction is going to be Jason Osborne in the white helmet. So again, at the front of the race, Knudsen's attack answered by Jason Osborne. So closed down now. Is Knudsen going to sit with Osborne? Are they going to work together? Pablo Popovic and SS, I think, want to bring this back together, because I'm not sure that they want Jason Osborne to be sat anywhere near the front of this race. He's got a big kick on him, Osborne, and I think maybe the UAE clan team think they want a bigger kicker. Well, it doesn't come much bigger in their team than Pablo Popovic. Probably one man with an even bigger kicker, and that is Michael Vink.
Yeah, and it was the wrong two who went up the road for the UAE clan team. They didn't want Osborne going with Knudsen. So pulling that all back together, Popovic, Vujasin, Kaminsky, X100, Cutler, Knudsen, Vink, all in here. Noren also in this mix too. So Vujasin and Zanaska 4th and 5th last week. Van Elst 2nd to Knudsen, or in qualifier 1, and Noren was right up there in the June final, 3rd place for him. So all of these riders on form at the moment.
On form and capable of taking victory, and it's a real bum fight in the category 1. One man who is going to have this all to himself. He doesn't need to be part of the Sticky Bone Club. He is David Dunn. There's nobody stuck to his wheel. David Dunn on the right of your screen is up over 42.5 kilometers covered. Wow, 42.5k covered. He is motoring.
He is indeed. He is well down the road on this Category 1 race pack, and may well be the first rider over the line today. Our Category 3 race leader at the moment, as our Category 1 leading pack of 11 have 5 kilometers to go.
So let's see who's going to take this out, who's going to be able to make the difference here today. Going to be tough stuff for our riders. I'm not sure who's going to have the race win. This is really, really tough here today. The riders are absolutely motoring.
They are indeed, as we are in on the right-hand side of your screen with Carlos Ospina, pushing on here. He's about 500 meters up the road from this Category 1 pack, continuing to move up this climb. So Ospina pushing on. The next rider he's going to see is Jan Decker from the Category 4 race field. Primero is the rider chasing Ospina, so continuing to work hard, but he's 7 seconds back now. So Ospina in 1 in Category 2, Primero in 3, and Primero in 2 and Orengo in 3. They were the original breakaway group of 3 riders. They are still 1, 2, 3 on the road, but there are gaps between them now.
So here we go, Category 1 are on the way up here. Really good to see how fast they're moving, and nobody able to make a decisive break at the minute.
So Pablo Popovic here in this pack, continuing to push. Knudsen, Zanaska, Cutler, Kaminsky, Vujasin all in here. They are working their way up and through the rest of the race fields as they come onto the back of another Category 4 rider, and we see that rider slip through the pack and out the other side as this group continues to move. Now Pim van Diemen is the rider who is pushing on at the front. He's been sat in that pack and quiet for the race, pushing on as we see.
So here we go, riders continue onwards. Category 1 right up at the front of Category 1. It's still a big group. They're at 41.2 at the moment. You can just see with Category 2 riders being caught up into this mix. But look at this. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic fight into the race finish. Let's see what happens as they go. Just taking a little look here as this group is across the road now. We are going to take a check up the road. We're just looking at these riders. I don't think David Dunn can be all that far off that race finish. I think he is going to be quickly back in sight of these of the finishing line. In fact, he's now about to hit 44 kilometers. He's got one more kilometer, and as you will know from that course profile that we've looked at earlier, this is not all uphill in a really steep way. However, this running is great to see this finish on the right hand side of your screen before the Category 1 riders get there. Tim Cutler puts the dig in on the front, because this is a tricky finish. We had a tricky finish in the women's race. We're not going to give you any spoilers, but do go back and watch it. It is incredible race finish on the women's race. On the men's race here, they come up, they work their way through the buildings. There is then a U-turn round to the right. They go round that hairpin, and then you come in to the race finish itself before you get there at 500 meters to go. And this is the key banner for the riders, is the finish of the climb.
Yeah, it is indeed. And Dawn continuing to move on and continuing to tick off those final few meters further back down the mountain. That's the Category 1 pack, and there's still 11 riders in there from Category 1. You can see some green jerseys from Category 2 still in there. And Simmons, you know, that's danger, I think, in Category 2, because Simmons is a really strong rider. I think he's capable of staying with this group if they are not attacking. So Simmons can dig deep and actually move through. Tim Cutler's heart rate at the moment 158. I think this is a strong pace at the moment from Category 1, but it is not a light yet.
Okay, let's take a little look at David Dunn. He's our rider who's going to be the first over the line here today. 176 beats per minute. He really is going to be feeling the pace here today. He has pushed on, he has stayed clear, he's broke clear of everybody else. He has sat and tempoed his way up here. No matter what the riders behind have tried, they have not been able to close him down. He's around the turn, he's on the run to the finish, and this is what we mean about it being tricky. You can't see the riders behind it, and you cannot see the gantry yet. He's got to come round this left-hand turn, and as it levels out from behind the yellow lanterns, you can see the yellow finishing gantry. This is the run in to the line. He's going to kick his way up here. It's going to be a run to the finish. It's going to be David Dunn who's going to take victory in qualifier number 3 in the men's race here. First rider over the line. It's your winner of Category 3, David Dunn.
So Don taking the win in Category 3. Kochakov is the rider down the mountain, looking like he's going to take second place, but it is coming thick and fast behind. Back in with the Category 1 race. They're coming up for 2.1 kilometers to go, and it's starting to light up. Zanaska X100, Knudsen, Kaminsky, Osborne, SS, all continuing to push as they keep working their way through back markers of the other races. We continue to see the pushes coming, but they are being matched by everybody in the group. They are shedding the Category 2, the Category 4 and the Category 3 riders as they continue to work their way through those packs. But it is a continued pack of Category 1 riders making their way up this mountain.
So who's it going to be? Who's your money on it? Very difficult to tell as they come in to the finish. Massive fight in Category 2. They're coming into that right-hand turn, that long sweeping right-hand turn at 43.5K. Immediately behind them, though, you can see Category 1 are still charging up this mountain, and it is a charge. It's at 7 watts per kilo. Joy Kaluma is about to see this look come up behind him, I think, here as we take a look in with this group. really fast up here is Mr. X100, who is charging at the front of this group. Meanwhile, in with the Category 3 chasers. So this is the battle for second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on down. We've seen David Dunn come in home. Who's going to take the run into the finish? We are now into the last 300 meters.
We are indeed, as we continue to see Roncalli here. Andres Staples Kochkov has been caught. So these 4 riders are lining up for the sprint for the second place in this Category 3 race today. They continue to push. They continue to work. Andres kicks at 9 watts per kilo. He's gone early. He can see the banner, but Roncalli and Staples. Staples is kicking. Staples is coming fast from behind. Will the momentum allow Staples to come over the top of Andres as the line comes and Staples goes through? Staples takes second place. Andres kicks, but it's too late. So Staples in 2, Andres in 3. I think Roncalli is going to come through for 4th place. Kochkov was in that second place for such a long time, but he misses out on 4th, 5th, and ends up in 6th place.
Now this is the run for the line in Category 1. This is the big kick in. Who's going to have the sprint power up at the front here? We are at 500 meters to go as we come underneath this banner. They've got to get this right. It's very tough. They're about to come up on Primero, who's leading out the Category 2 competition. Category 4, well, they are scattered all the way down the mountain. I don't think we're going to be able to see them, but we can see the leader of Category 2. It's Albert Primero, who is really rocketing up this time. He is catching riders, but goes past Mark Dadson, and Dadson is no slouch when it comes to going uphill, but Primero is really rocketing up.
Well, Primero is rocketing, but Popovic is kicking behind. Popovic is kicking really fast, so is Osborne. Osborne's putting out 15 watts per kilo at the moment. Osborne wants this from Fincan Popovic. Knudsen is there as well, so is Noren, but Jason Osborne is the rider kicking hard. Popovic can't match him. It's Osborne that comes over the line to take the win from that group of 6 in that Category 1 race. Jason Osborne wins the Category 1 race. Vink in 2, Popovic in 3, Knudsen in 4, and Noren in 5.
What a race today. Vujasin, who was for so long in that group, just getting distance in the later stages. Let's take a look at those numbers. So, Dan Staples and Andres in Category 3 Primero, and Carlos Espina Hernandez, he is the rider in second place in Category 2. Taking the win was Primero in Category 2. Then, Category 1, wow, what a ride. We're still seeing our riders come in over the finish. Jason Osborne in 1, taking the win. Michael Vick in 2. Pablo Popovic in 3. Michael Knudsen in 4. Second, third, and fourth places all for the clan team, the UAE clan team, following the Belgian Waffles rider Jason Osborne home. Then it was Johan Noren in 5th, SS in 6th, Michael Kaminsky in 7th, Lionel Vujasin in 8th, Lucas Zanaska in 9th place, the leading rider of the Italian Gelato squad. 10th place today on the men's race, Mr. X100, after all that work there. And as you can see, the UAE clan team placing 5 riders in the top 10. Tim Cutler comes in 11th place, and our riders will continue to fill our results, which are, of course, at the moment, unofficial. So they're unofficial until those results are verified. What a race. What a race finish. What a weekend of racing.
2 phenomenal races today.
We have been lucky enough to be on the mic at crit races, at XCE races, and today here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club this weekend. I'll tell you something, it has been a cracking weekend to put words to the action to, rounded up by what has been one of our best set of races on MyWhoosh. My name's Matt Payne. I'm here in the studio with Emma Martin. Emma, where can we find you on social media?
You can head over to Instagram and find me at Biking Emma.
You can find me at Matt Fixer Payne. Don't forget, you can follow all of the team at MyWhoosh across social media. On Instagram and on Facebook, it is at MyWhoosh. It's at my_whoosh on Twitter. But what we'd really love you to do is log on to www.mywhoosh.com and jump on board. Download the app on whatever device you're using and come and join us on the Sunday Race Club and get those wheels that are turning, and let's see what you can do up against our riders in whatever category fits you. But for now, for this week, until next week, from myself, from Emma, and from all of the team at MyWhoosh, stay safe, enjoy your riding. We'll see you again soon.
Goodbye.